Okay, so I'm testing out this whole method of pulling in NDEs from mostly from the DERF, NDERF.org, and I might also, I guess, get transcripts from ones that have been on interviews. Instead of just reading thousands of NDEs, I need to start, putting this all together somehow. So what I wanted to talk about here is light as a portal. I had read the first NDE that we'll talk about, Lewis S. I read this, it was a DMT experience, so to be exact. So I had read this, and he mentions, and I'll say what he mentions, that light is a portal. And it just, I guess on one hand, many of us know this. In regards to the light at the end of the tunnel, I think a lot of us do realize that it kind of is a gateway or a portal, to another dimension. For a lot of people, they might think it's a gateway to heaven, but it goes further to say that light is a portal, like light anywhere, like light bulbs, the light of the sun, the light of a candle, like light anywhere is a portal. And even as I'm saying this, I'm recalling, out of nowhere, I'm recalling the Harry Potter, where he does something with the flame, and he's able to communicate with other people through the flame, through the light of the flame. So I think there's some truth to this. I just wanted to mention and kind of bring together a few NDEs that I found that speak about the sun, and especially now during this time of high sun activity, I think that makes sense. So the sun, light, and just see if we, see what we get from that, kind of put it all together. And the whole point of NDE talk is besides, me kind of putting together my thoughts and what I gather from these NDEs, is for the viewers to also, pull in information that they have, experiences that they've had, questions that they have, because this is what people do at the end of a lot of these NDE videos anyway. So it's like, I think it's my goal here is really just to kind of bring it together so that we can really start to dive into this together and get some answers. So, or enlightenment, I guess. So light is a portal, light is a portal. The first one that I mentioned by Lewis S. was a DMT experience. I have the link here, and I'll have the links in the description so that you can read the full NDE and understand like what's happening there before and after the snippet that I put in here. But I'll just read here. These people around me told me that the sun we see on Earth, and even the stars and the artificial light bulbs we have, do not produce light, but they are a portal which allows part of the reality to flow in within our dream. And by within our dream, he means this earthly life. And the people he's talking about are not actually people, but if I recall, they were people who had passed, or light beings, because he was in the midst of his experience. So effectively, every time we see a light, we are seeing a part of infinity, which is reality, which is love, which is consciousness, which is God, which is all one, which is all the same. They say that just like the sun or any light bulb can be a portal to light, we can also be a portal of reality into the illusion every time we love others. I love that as well. If you think about light workers, it makes sense. Like a light worker, somebody is living and being love and trying to spread love, true love, then they are a portal of that light. They're a portal, or I guess you can say a channel of source, of God, of that love, that unconditional love. So just like the sun opens itself to give light, not expecting anything back, love does not expect anything back, no matter what, because true infinite love is unconditional, and we can be light that just like Jesus was, because he went to earth as the ultimate example for everybody. And when people talk about Jesus or Yeshua, they talk about light a lot, like he's the light of the world, So there's a connection there as well, and you'll see in a lot of these NDEs regarding light. He's a part of a lot of these, and there are a lot. Like I have about 13 pages here, so I might break this up, but it's for people who really are interested. And hopefully this will be, helpful. Okay, so the next one I have here is by Tim VZ. It's an NDE experience. In this experience, the tunnel is of light and is a portal into another realm. Okay. As I entered the tunnel of light, I was bathed in a profound sense of love, peace, and joy. It was as if the light itself held the secrets to the universe, whispering promises of boundless understanding and unity. In that luminous embrace, I felt a profound connection to everything that had ever existed, a love beyond measure, a peace beyond description, and a joy that transcended earthly experiences. I wasn't alone in this celestial passage. Beside me, there was a presence, gentle and reassuring. It was my spirit guide, a being who had journeyed with me throughout my life, offering guidance and protection in ways I had scarcely comprehended. And this happens a lot. Like, this person just happened to know or to understand that within the tunnel was their spirit guide. And there's others who at first feel as if they're alone, and then they'll feel a presence, to behind them, either, to the right or the left. I think it could be either or. But some of them just know that there's something there that's, feels comfortable and feels like it's known them forever, but they don't kind of put together that it might be their guide, their spirit guide. In this timeless place of light and love, my spirit guide wordlessly conveyed a sense of purpose and guidance. We moved together through the tunnel of light, leaving behind the confines of the physical world and entering a realm of pure spiritual energy. Emerging from the tunnel of light, I found myself standing before a magnificent structure, a Roman-style building of grand proportions. Towering pillars adorned with intricate carvings rose into the heavens, and the air was thick with an otherworldly serenity. A soft golden light enveloped everything, infusing it with a sense of divine beauty. Okay, so this tunnel of light brings them into another world. And again, you hear a lot about these Roman style buildings. Like, for some reason, there are certain dimensions that have a lot of Greek and Roman style buildings, and you can kind of intuit why that might be. I mean, whether it was people from those civilizations who had these experiences, saw these buildings, and then came back with that information, whether the architects were channeling beings from these dimensions. I mean, the ideas can go on and on. It's shown very frequently among NDEs. So Peter P, in his experience, let's see here. Light, okay, this one is light as waves of awareness, so a little different. In the initial phase of waking up, I also received an experience with light of such a wonderful quality that it is difficult to describe with words. I was shown 3 light waves on which today's humanity is evolving. And when I first read this, it reminded me of Dolores Cannon's 3 Waves of Volunteers. And people know about that. It just, for some reason, just reminded me of that. Okay. For the sake of logic, I'm defining them here as the self-imposed pathways of awareness that each individual can take to obtain the best possible results from their particular choice. Okay. The first way is what the main part of the global population has chosen, and the daily struggle is enacted in that timeline. I don't want to give the impression that path is in any way better or superior than the other timelines. All experiences in human life eventually lead back to the divine light. The second path was shown to me as a mixed way in a gray color. Here, euphoric phases are alternated in quick succession with depressive stages. It is as if people were switching between phases of competence and phases lacking of power, and then again to a new euphoric phase. Okay, so that's like the middle path. The third way is one of the absolute victimhood. Ooh. It was shown to me in colors of dark and black. Power and responsibility were handed over to outer entities. Here, only a very small part of the light spark can be addressed through motivation. Many beings of light from higher planes are providing a selfless service here to again illuminate the way back to the light. This way corresponds with the absolute free choice of each individual as to whether they choose towards light or darkness. I was also shown that in this darkness exists one of the most unbelievable choices for humanity, because in this choice is also the possibility to change the galaxy. Whoa. Interesting. The path that no one would want to take. It has the possibility to change the galaxy. Okay. The core truths of love, compassion, kindness, and benevolence are towards what the human nature can and will evolve. The first path of those three is so unbelievable for us incarnated beings. It can only be termed with definitions of utopia, heavenly life of angels, or ecstatic rapture. Okay. There is a beautiful part of beings who always stay in this realm. They are dancing and singing through life. Oh, that sounds awesome. That sounds like my place. For them, terms like synchronicity, grace, or cosmic guidance are the absolute central and essential elements in life. They realize how creation is working and that a life without the connection with the one power of creation would disrupt everything. Humor, joy, fun, respect, compassion, and gratitude is with them round the clock. In this wonderful place, all fear is dissolved like mist in a brilliant sun. It is an all-encompassing field with absolute acceptance, comfort, peace, and connectedness, and a 100% awareness to be at the right place. During this time of considering those things, I was guided by a wonderful being of light. I don't remember somebody else or meeting a certain individual. Only those impressions of the light of love and the perfect comprehension and acceptance remained. Okay, so his is like, some of these, because they're experiencing things that really is hard for the human mind to understand. Like, you'll hear very often that it's hard to explain, or it might get into, like, even when they explain it, it might still feel like, okay, what is being said here, but I like this. I like that, he saw these three waves of light. The first sounding like almost impossible, like just heaven on earth, and others sounding like the middle path of, good and bad, and, struggle and joy. And then the last one being the darkest one, but the one that could change the galaxy. Yeah, it's just a different way to see light, because it's just three different ways of seeing light. After, speaking about this, he mentions that he's being guided by a wonderful being of light. So light seems to be, we are light, when it comes down to it, we are from light. When people say that they experience the creator of all, it's this bright golden light a lot of times, many times actually. So it would make sense that in this discussion about light, it's not just one thing. It could be a portal, it could be a being, it could be a wave, as he said, a wave of awareness. So in probably a trillion other things, but you're going to see that very clearly, that the same way energy can be anything, it seems that light can also transform in different ways. This one is Michael G. Let me see what I said here for the notes. Okay, so he saw two different types of light, gold and white. Okay, and one is a portal. The other one is kind of like which I guess what people would consider God source. He doesn't say it as such, but it's a light that is full of unconditional love. So you can assume, what you want about it. Okay, as my time working on this narrative is limited, working on a public PC, and since you have read, heard, watched this stuff before, I'm going to be brief. I like this guy's attitude. I encountered the veiled woman at least twice more, especially at the end of this experience. Encountered a white light and a light of golden amber. Interesting. So it makes you think of the Trinity a little bit. He saw a veiled woman and two different lights. Okay, both lights were extremely brilliant, but being blinded was impossible, and both lights were extremely well defined, not fuzzy. I would encounter the fuzzy light type entity while shamanizing in later years. I consider such to be a collective thought form. Oh, a collective thought form takes on a fuzzy light appearance. Interesting. I had no feelings for the white light, nor it for myself. Interesting. It acted like a type of portal. Okay, so and this is why his is so important, because it's like the two of the different forms that light might take, he saw. So it seems like the white light is just a portal. It's not an actual being. And that's why he said he had no feelings for it. Okay, so it acted like a type of portal, and at one point elongated into a tunnel of light. The golden amber light was very different, however. Yes, it was engulfing me with unconditional love. Forgiveness is not necessary. It's not necessary, as I'd never done anything wrong. Okay. But what really continues to surprise me all these years later is that somehow I had and have always known this being. I've heard this before. Yes, interesting. I finally ended up in an otherworldly environment that I never heard any NDE or describe. It was like a moon, no atmosphere. The golden light was on a horizon, almost like a sun, right? The golden light was on the horizon. There was a sea of golden liquid light. Now this is, I didn't note this. So now we have light as a liquid. So there was a sea of golden liquid light. At the beach of this sea, and at a small distance away, the woman was there. I asked her what I could bring back from this place that could help a dying person. I heard her voice, her voice, a command. Tell them to love this. Interesting. I almost wanted to, let's see. Because maybe I cut it off too soon. I would really love to know what was said after that. Let's open this up. Okay, tell them to love this. Okay, so this is where she says it here. Tell them to love this. Okay. This was confusing as I didn't know what this was. Okay, even he didn't know what this was. I looked down and noticed that I had a dreamlike body and that I was standing thigh deep in this golden liquid light. I asked, tell them to love the light? Yes, tell them to love the light. I suddenly found myself standing right in front of her. The white light was directly behind her, framing her in brilliant light that should have obscured her features. Gone was the look of disease that seemed to be a part of her earlier. Interesting. Okay, I really have to read this one over. And I suggest you read it as well. She seemed to be scanning my body somehow. She told me I'd been there long enough and I needed to go back. I had a confusing moment of return, but it wasn't until I found myself in my body that I could hear the drumming. I lay on my back while William Wise drummed for the other participants who were still journeying. I lay there for at least 10 minutes until the session ended. Okay. Yeah, this one is trippy. This one is trippy. Tell them to love the light. Shamanic practice. Okay. I just wanted to just because it said NDE, I want to see exactly how he had this experience. Okay, so this guy's playing drums. So it sounds like he was in some kind of workshop, a shamanic workshop. That's how he got pulled into that experience. But definitely different. Definitely different. And the other thing I have, because I try to keep as open a mind as possible without, completely losing it. I just, when you read these, I just try to, look at both possibilities or many possibilities. And there are some of these experiences that definitely make me question and wonder, because we are at such a disadvantage when it comes to understanding and information. And many people say for a purpose, like we come here knowing that we'll be veiled and that we won't know, But I do wonder sometimes about what the light is. Like, is the light everything that it seems to be? Because if you read enough of these, you're going to think, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with thinking this, because it could be exactly what it is, but you will end up thinking most likely that the light, in addition to being a portal, is, like I said, the golden light being God, source, the creator of all. Others will see the light as being Jesus, and some will say that it's two different lights, and it could be Jesus and God. And then, I've heard enough of these experiences to know that there are also stars, and stars give off light just like our sun, and also are like beings. They have a consciousness to them, unlike a portal, which would just be a more bland light, I guess. Well, not bland, but just just a different type of light. But then you also I always try to just, I guess you say, play the devil's advocate, just to make sure that I'm not being hoodwinked. It's just part of my personality. Because what this woman's saying, tell them to love the light. When I hear these NDE experiences where they're being told to do something, like go back and write this book, go back and tell what you saw here. On one hand, I'm like, okay, maybe that's, the higher beings trying to help us get back on our path, or to help us get through this class, this school, this challenge. And it's a helpful hint. And then, of course, since there are the negative or malevolent beings, I also have to worry and just think, okay, is this one of those? Or why are they, is this propaganda? And I just hope I'm thinking too much, or just thinking that, that's just too negative of a thought, that it doesn't have to be that deep. But people do sometimes forget that we have love and light is awesome, but whether you use the name, Satan or Lucifer, he's known as, the light. He's the light bearer, and was, I believe, the angel of love. So I always, as much as I love and light, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with it, I do, in the back of my mind, just keep that on a shelf somewhere, that, I have to always discern constantly, because we just don't know. If we're being honest to ourselves, we really just don't know. And you don't want to be led astray, especially, when you see how some of these darker elements are. You don't want to ever be in their be under their command is basically what I'm trying to say there. So let's just move to the next one. Okay, so another Michael, lots of Michaels. Michael B, and light as a dimensional portal, and also as individual beings. Okay, I started walking down this hallway again, and this time I can sense and see the floor is changing to a downward slope. That's freaky. About 10 paces later, I noticed that there is a light slowly illuminating behind me. I stopped and turned around. That large wide hallway is beginning to slowly but dimly light up from a separate source. It's about 10 feet away from me now. I start walking towards it and stop. As it gets brighter, it lights up the entrance to another large hallway about 12 feet ahead of me and to my left. It finally stops moving at the entry point of the hallway, and a bright pinpoint of light begins to expand in mid-air and spreads in 4 directions: up, down, left, and right. So that's like a cross, basically. It quickly opens like a zipper in these directions and creates an oval shape that someone cutting a canvas and spreading it open from the sides like a pair of curtains. I could see 4 beings in the light. They all seemed about 4 feet tall and moving about close together. They were communicating with me through their thoughts, not through words. I was receiving a picture of thought. Although hard to explain properly, I'd get a group of sentences all at once, creating a message with a picture. I could respond telepathically as well. They were simply telling me to keep coming closer and inviting me into the light. I began walking towards them. As I got closer, the light got brighter all around and behind them. They were all in hooded open robes of very bright white light surrounding them with light beige highlights. As they moved their heads around, the light beige highlights would move on their cheeks. So I'm presuming it's a kind of shadow effect because the robes were open. I noticed none of them had any genitalia. Oh God. Their hands had 4 long fingers each. Interesting. The lower part of their arms were exposed. Their faces in front of their bodies were exposed from the top of their foreheads to their feet. They were a very light white flesh color. They were solid, real in the flesh. Their skin was smooth and they were not transparent. Their eyes were medium-sized and black in color, just like human eyes, only a little bigger. They were not big almond-shaped bug eyes. So he's, trying to express that, they didn't look like, well, I'm not saying he's trying to express that, but, so they didn't look like the Greys, what you would consider the typical Greys. They had small noses and nostrils like a child's nose. In fact, I'd say they looked like children. They had small, thin-lipped mouths, their heads rounded in a way that reminded me of the aliens we refer to as the Greys. So there were some similarities with the Greys, but the heads were not elongated, but closer to human-shaped heads. I'm just going to stop there for a second, because when I read this, in my mind, it sounds like hybrids. I mean, we have so many people talking about seeing and being part of these programs and, giving birth to these children, these beings. And these sound very much like a mixture between human and the Greys, but that's my opinion. Each one of them was outlined in a thick line of pure, brilliant white. They had a thin line of very bright white light surrounding them. Behind them, looking deeper into the portal, so he's calling this light a portal, was the brightest white I have ever seen. As I got closer to them, I came to the wide hallway on my left. I stopped to look down the hall. The light from the portal was bright enough to illuminate about 50 feet of the hallway. I'm not sure why I stopped here, but you can read the rest of this on NDE if you're interested. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot here because it's going into aliens and potentially hybrids and other stuff, but the light here is definitely a portal, and for some reason they were trying to get him to enter the portal. And you hear a lot of different, I guess, advice or regarding what some of these portals are. Some people walk directly into the light and they're in like a heavenly space or just another dimension. Like the other guy we just read about, he was in a dimension with the Roman type buildings. And then you have other people who say that you cannot enter the light because if you do, you will never return to your body. So, and for people who believe that this Earth is a prison planet, you can check some of like on Reddit and other forums, like you'll hear people just confused about which light they should go in, if they should not go in the light. It just gets really, really convoluted because no one really knows. But I have noticed that in the NDEs that in experiences like this, that sometimes going into light is perfectly fine, and then there are other times where, and actually we'll get into that in a minute, I'll express something else that happens sometimes right before the light. But it's just interesting that these, I guess you could say, alien type beings in robes, and that's another thing, is that you find a lot of these beings that are in robes and are not showing their faces or hiding, and that is going to be a whole nother NDE talk for sure. We'll get into that because I don't understand why, and we should probably wonder why. Okay, let's see. I think we're getting to the end of this because I'm kind of tired. All right, so I'm not sure how to pronounce this name, Anouk, and this is an NDE, and she or he saw it as he or she saw it as beings, lightest beings. I remember wondering how I could have gotten into this mess, and also knew that I had to find a way out of it. Almost instantly, as I was formulating this last thought, I saw a small light a long way away. The light was rapidly approaching me through this dark and infinite space. I understood that this light was two beings coming for me. And I've seen this before too, like when people are in like the void or something, or it's usually in the void. I don't know that it's ever happened in the tunnel, or in space. So in space or in the void, and they'll have a light coming towards them and kind of blinking towards them. That's another interesting thing I've noticed. Okay. They were two beautiful beings made of light. I couldn't see their faces. There was only light. They seemed almost surprised to find me there, and I felt like I shouldn't have been there. And this has happened before too. I think I mentioned this. Like, it's just very weird that, and a little concerning, that you would think at the higher levels that there wouldn't be mistakes, there wouldn't be surprises. Most of us don't want to hear that because we want to know that something's secure, especially leaving this earth. You want to know that, or feel that the other side is managed well. But this is not the first time I've heard that beings were surprised to see someone who had an accident and left their body and they're in one of these spaces. I felt the beings to be so beautiful and powerful. Compared to them, I felt weak, small, weak, lame, and pathetic. I would have given anything to be like them. I felt so far removed from them in every way, like a mouse next to an elephant. Okay, so I don't know if this attitude is just this particular person, but I've definitely heard this before where, and it's not to say that they're angels, but a lot of times it might be angelic beings or just higher dimensional beings. But that's the reaction that humans will have. Some humans will have in these experiences when they're in close proximity to these beings. They feel, some will cover their face, some will bow down and just feel like nothing. I don't know, I don't have much to say about that, but it's just something that I've noticed. This is not the first time I've heard something like this. Okay, so the beings started talking to me telepathically. They heard everything I was thinking. Yep, that happens all the time. Right. They even got ahead of my questions as communication was instantaneous, smooth, and pleasant. It was more like they were showing me things rather than they were talking to me. I seem to remember that they showed me that I was like them. Now this is interesting. So she goes from feeling like they are just the dirt underneath these beings' feet, like just really just nothing. And then these beings are saying, you're like us. Okay, so it says, it was that the earthly life had shrunk in me. I've heard this before too. People having to shrink to get back into their body after an experience, because the human body is just so much smaller than what we truly are in our natural state as a soul, as a soul or spirit. I also think I remember that it was not just about me, but that we were all like them initially. Initially, we made ourselves very small to experience our terrestrial world. I think I knew them. One spoke more than the other, and they had different energies. Each being took one of my hands, and we started to fly through the huge dark space. Okay, so that's another one you might want to continue reading. It's very interesting. Okay. So David R. Oh, I'm definitely going to break this up. It's a lot. Okay. David R. Light as a portal behind a gate. Okay. Yeah. I was floating towards an open gate where the light coming from beyond the gate was brighter than the sun, but soft enough that you could look at it. And you'll hear that so many times where, I think it's very rare for me to have heard anything other than this, but most NDEs or people who have these experiences, when they see the light, whether it's the portal or a being, it seems like it would be brighter than the sun, but it doesn't hurt their eyes, or their soul eyes, or I saw a long line of people, 4 or 5 abreast, going into the gate. As I approached the gate, I was greeted by my grandmother and what I knew to be her sister, although we had never met. My grandmother told me to go back. It wasn't my time, but I still approached her. After much meditation on the experience as to whether there were arms and legs, I remembered my grandmother's sister raised her arm out of the mist and pointed and said, "Look." As I turned and looked, I saw an ambulance going down the road, about to go under an overpass. As I turned back to my grandmother, I opened my eyes and was back in the ambulance, and we were going under that overpass. So this is interesting. It's a little different too. I don't want to go on a tangent here, but it does seem like our intention is everything. Like when beings on that side want us to leave, like it's like, okay, you're not supposed to be here. Some might get forced, I don't know, but a lot of times if they're able to make you remember something or somebody or some place on earth, then you're back where your thought is, And so this is interesting, where the grandmother's sister tells him to look, and then kind of shows him the vision, I guess, or an image of where his body was and what was happening, and he all of a sudden is back in his body. So that was interesting. But I think I added this one only because the fact that the light was coming from behind a gate, I just kind of feel like it was, kind of a portal that had a gate in front of it, so that only certain beings, I guess, could make it through. So I found that interesting. Okay. All right. So Layla, NDE, light is magnetic, pulling one into it and removing low vibrational emotions and thoughts. So this happens a lot too. So I wanted to mention this because it's in a lot of NDEs. Okay. So next, I was above my body. I knew that I was dead. It was dark in the room, but I could see light. I was fearful at first, but the closer I got to the light, my feelings started changing. All fear and negativity disappeared. So this is big. That just that one little moment right there is so big because it happens a lot where whether it be beings or the light itself, or I've had interviews where NDEs say that in heaven you can't be upset, you can't be angry, you can't be, it's impossible. So there is definitely this mood or emotion, this power to tamp down negative emotions and to promote love, calm, and happiness. You see this a lot. Right, so all fear and negativity disappeared. I did not walk into the light, yet it felt like I was being pulled into it. It was like being slowly sucked into the light. This light was so bright, yet it wasn't blinding, and it didn't hurt my eyes. So you will hear that again. The light was soft and comfortable, but brighter than looking at the sun. So brighter than the sun, but it doesn't hurt your eyes. You will hear this so many times. I promise. You'll hear that as many times as you hear about love. It's just, it's amazing. But here also, I wanted to stop because it said that she was, I think it's a she, that she was being pulled into the light, and this happens a lot. It's like there's a magnetic pull from it. I mean, who knows what it is, but if it is source, if it is what we are, because a lot of people, if they do go through the light, feel like they are home and that they're with that which created them, then it would make sense that you feel like, it's almost like just like a magnet, I guess. Like if you had the thing that created you can pull you in, because you're part of it. So yes, it would make sense that we can almost not have any free will in regards to being attracted to that being or that energy. So yeah. When I reached the brightest point, I was no longer moving. I was at peace. I felt so many positive and wonderful feelings, such as calmness, peace, joy, love, and trust. In that moment, my experience was orders of magnitude better than any kind of earthly experience. For instance, I consider a mother's joy and love felt from the birth of her child is the best earthly feeling. But this experience makes that appear like a drop of water compared to a vast sea or ocean of this experience. There was no other place I wanted to be. It's a nice place to end that. So even though, like I had said a few NDEs previously, that I sometimes get suspicious, because it's just me, but suspicious about what this light is and what the whole point is, and then you read these where nothing about that really seems too negative. I mean, it put her in a state of joy, of happiness, of love, of calm, and a lot of times they come back with a positive thought about life and living and helping others. So that's usually the moment where I stop worrying about what it actually is. Let's see here. Next one is Anelia, and it's an NDE. The light is a source of unconditional love, peace, and calm, a choice to go towards the light or enter it. But if entering, there is no return. So I had mentioned this before about how sometimes it says if you enter the light, you can't go back. And when I say can't go back to your previous life, your previous body. So up above me, I saw this beautiful, warm, gentle, yet bright white light. The light had depth to it, as it was the brightest in the center, but there was also a spectrum of very beautiful and gentle colors. It was somewhat similar to the sun, but our eyes see the sun as a white, flat circle that is painful to look at. This light did not look flat, nor did it hurt my eyes to look at it. So we have that again. In that moment, it felt as if time had stopped or just didn't exist. I felt that the light was protecting me and nothing could ever reach me or harm me in its presence. I felt super calm and loved. It wasn't like the love between humans, which involves various different emotions. This love was unconditional and serene. I was levitating towards the light. At the same time, I had knowledge that I was dead. I did not have a word for the concept of death. I had this strong perception that my life had ended and I was returning to where I originated from. So yeah, it's a lot being said here, but it just sounds like this particular light is not just a portal, but actual, or if it is a portal, it's directly to, heaven, source, the creator of all. I saw my life on earth as a split second in a tiny fraction of what I was supposed to live. I thought to myself the equivalent of, what was that it? No, this cannot be it. At that moment, I had a clear understanding of who I was on a fundamental level. I am not talking about earthly attributes like gender, race, or ethnicity. I am talking about the spirit me, for lack of a better term. I wasn't a human form, nor did I have any age. I just was. For the sake of explaining this experience, I am writing everything in linear order. However, all of this happened simultaneously. So, like other people say, there is no time. And it's hard to explain. So, it always is. I saw a preview of the life I was meant to live. It all made sense, but I don't remember the details. I had a choice to either go towards the light and enter right through it. But I would have not been able to return. As pleasant as this was, I wanted to continue my earthly life. I was supposed to become someone and was aware that I hadn't even started this yet. As per my wishes, I returned. And this is not the norm, not to say not the norm, but this is not always the case. There are a lot of people who get here and they just say, I want to continue on, I want to go home. I'm done with Earth. And then they don't have that choice. They're actually sent back. So this was interesting. Then the light started to fade, and I saw two men walk towards the jungle gym. This happened when she was a child. I initially saw them from the perspective of an observer on the side. A moment later, I was looking at them from the perspective of my body, which was on the ground. So the light faded and she went back to her body. Lola. I don't have notes here, but let's see. When I was unconscious, I didn't feel my own body anymore. Everything was at the same time long and extremely fast. I saw the good moments of my life scrolling at top speed. Then I saw the tunnel. I saw a white and yellow light that was brilliant, yet soft and not burning like the sun. So we hear the same thing there. Then I saw my grandmother, who was deceased in real life. She was radiating light and happy. There was a halo of light surrounding her that prevented me seeing what was behind her. My grandmother was neither old nor young. It was odd, so I wouldn't know how to describe it. I talked to her. She told me to go back because we couldn't stay any longer. She told me that it wasn't my time and that I still had things to do. So in this one, the light is around the deceased grandmother like a halo. So we kind of know where the halo comes from in artwork, and people have experienced this, I guess. But I just, maybe I thought what was weird about this was the halo of light surrounding her prevented her from seeing what was behind her. Yeah, what was behind her in that tunnel. So just found that a little interesting there.